Hi friends, I'm Manu Joseph. I'm doing my masters in corporate law. So today I'm in front of you with a topic amendment procedures provided in Indian and Australian constitution. I am making an attempt to do a comparative study between Indian and Australian constitution relating to the amendment procedures provided in both constitutions. So as we all know that the constitutions in modern times it is playing a vital role in administration. So the constitutions of every country protects the interest and rights of the citizens in that country. So just like India and Australia, most of all the countries have written constitution, their own written constitutions, but some countries like UK have unwritten constitutions also. But most of all countries have their own constitutions, their own policies, their own doctrines, their own principles for administration. So today we are going to the amendment procedures provided in Australian and Indian constitution, and when we look into it, we can understand that the we claim that Indian constitution is rigid and at the same time it is flexible also because um, the amendment to Indian constitution it is not that tough or it is not that difficult to make, but at the same time Australian constitution is very much rigid. The amendment to Australian constitution it is not an easy task. So we first we will go into the basic features of constitution, basic features of Indian constitution first, then the basic features of Australian constitution, then we will see the amendment procedures which is laid down by Indian constitution, the amendment procedures laid down by the Australian constitution, and at the later stage, at the final stage, we'll just evaluate, we'll just make a comparative study between the two, and we will just find out what our constitution lacks and what all measures we can make to make our constitution more rigid. So first of all, this is only my personal opinion. I am not here to criticize any political parties. I am not here to talk in favor of any political parties. It is only my point is that how to make our constitution more rigid and why we have to make it more rigid. That is my point. So we'll go into the key features of Indian constitution. First one and the most attractive key feature of Indian constitution is that Indian constitution is a modern constitution. So all I have seen so many people criticizing Indian constitution and Indian statutes also, telling that India does not have anything of its own. We always adopt the policies of foreign statutes. We always adopt foreign policies, provisions from foreign statutes. Also, even in our Indian constitution, also we have adopted from U.S. constitution. We have adopted from Irish constitution. We have adopted from Canadian constitution, British constitution. Then even from the amendment, the procedure for amendment and all, we have adopted from South African constitution. So we have adopted from numerous constitutions to make our Indian constitution. But I think that is the unique and that is the most beautiful feature of Indian constitution because the constitutional the law the makers of our constitution have done their homeworks very well because they know that they just observed what all success, what all failures happened in various constitutions in various part of the world, what all success they have witnessed so many ups and downs. So they were able to grasp in everything in their mind, and they were able to they were able to draft a world's best constitution, and which covers all the prospect, like all the points which has to be covered in a supreme law. The second one is the parliamentary form of government. parliamentary form of government, that is the second key feature of Indian constitution. So the constitution of India chose the parliamentary form of government. So in a parliamentary form of government, there is a collective responsibility of executive to the legislature. And after that, the third one is, I'm just giving the, I'm not going so deep into the key features. I'm just giving the outline of the key features of both constitution. And the third key feature, we can, a notable key feature is that independent judiciary. Independent judiciary, as we all know that the independence of judiciary is one of the best and one of the important feature of Indian constitution. And it is very important to have an independent and integrated judiciary to prevent the abuse of power by other organs of government. So the fourth one is that the federal and unitary features which is provided in Indian constitution. Then the last one we can tell is that the rigidity and flexibility, what we have mentioned a few minutes back. Indian constitution is rigid and at the same time it is flexible also. So we'll go to the key features of Australian constitution now. First key feature is that it is the Australian Federation. It has to be noted that the Australian Federation is a union of independent states. So the present Australian states, they were self-governing British colonies first. They were self-governing British colonies before the formation of the Australian Federation. After that, in 1900, the Commonwealth Australian Constitution got a royal assent. After that, from that, this self-governing colonies, the self-governing British colonies, after being the states, they got their liberty to enact their own constitution. But after that, in 1900, they enacted their own constitution, the Constitution of Australia. And after that, from 1901 to 2020, we can note a slow evolution of strong centralizing power of federation of Australian Federation. That is one of the important feature of Australian Constitution. That is, the Australian Federation itself is a union of independent state. The second one is that just like India, it is a federal constitution. And third one is that just like India, similar to India, what is the Australian Constitution provides a parliamentary form of government. Then the fourth one, that is something which is notable, because there is a huge misconception that the Australian constitution, just like Indian constitution, US constitution, they guarantees human rights, their fundamental rights. But it is just a misconception, because the Australian constitution does not guarantee any fundamental rights. They does not they does not guarantee it does not guarantee the right against torture. It does not guarantee right against discrimination, right against right against equality, like a right of equality before the law. So it does not include, or it does not guarantee any of such fundamental rights, other than the ones which is like a right to religion, the right to have the freedom of religion, then the right to vote. Only some which we can count in our fingers. Only some rights are guaranteed under the Australian Constitution. All other rights, fundamental rights like right to equality, right against torture, right against discrimination, all other rights are not guaranteed under Australian Constitution. Then the last key feature which is notable is that it is a rigid constitution. That is our point, that we have to elaborate more, because that is our topic which has to be elaborated. So now we look into the amendment procedure. provided by the Indian Constitution. So, the Constitution of India provides three various modes through which amendment can be made. First one is that amendment by simple majority. Second one is the amendment by special majority. Third one is the amendment by special majority plus the ratification of state legislators. So first we will go to we will see the amendment by simple majority. So Constitution of India provides with the articles which can be amended by the parliament just like enacting an ordinary law. So uh, under under Indian Constitution, Article 5 which deals with the citizenship, Article 169 which deals with the abolition or creation of legislative councils in states. These uh, these articles need only simple majority to be amended. Article 5, Article 169 and Article 239A of Indian Constitution. So uh, expressly all these three, that is Article 5, 169 and 239A, expressly these three articles are excluded from the purview of Article 368 of Constitution, which deals with amendment of Constitution. Now we will go to the amendment by special majority, the second mode, that provides under Article 368 of Indian Constitution. So the provisions laid down in Indian Constitution other than which is mentioned just before, that is Article 5 to 169, 239, 239A, all provisions other than these three provisions need a special majority to be amended. For amending all other provisions, a special majority is needed under Indian Constitution. So the first thing is that for making any amendment, for making any amendment to these provisions, all other provisions, first a bill has to be presented, has to be initiated in either of the house of the parliament. Then second one is that after the bill is passed in each house of the parliament by a majority of total membership of that house, and by the majority of not less than two-thirds of membership of the house present, then the bill shall be presented to the president for his assent. And another thing which must be noted here is that it is obligatory to the President of India to give his assent to such a bill. Okay, then after receiving the assent of President of India, the provision upon which the amendment is proposed shall be amended in accordance with the terms of the bill. Then the third and last mode of amendment provided by Indian Constitution is that amendment by special majority plus the ratification of state legislators. Then Article 368 of Indian Constitution lays down two types. So two types of amendment has been laid down under Article 368 of Indian Constitution. First one we have seen just before, that is we have discussed, that is the amendment by special majority, and the second one amendment by special majority plus ratification of state legislatures. So here what happens is that a bill is presented before either of the house of the parliament. There the bill gets a two-third majority of members present in that house. Then the bill will go to the second house, the other house, where it will get a two-third of majority, and there also. Then rather, instead of going before the president for his assent, this bill, after after passing in both the houses, after passage of the bill in both the houses, it will go to the state legislatures all over the country for the ratification of state legislatures. So the ratification shall be given by the state legislatures by giving a simple majority. Here that is a thing which has to be noted here, is that the ratification shall be given by the state legislatures not by a special majority. For ratification of such bills, a simple majority of state legislature is enough for the ratification of such bills. So, the bill is after passage of the bill in both the houses, it will go to the state legislatures of all the state legislatures all over the country. Then, after it is ratified by more than 50 percentage of state legislatures, it will go to the president for his assent. That is the third and last mode of uh, amendment provided under Article 368 and of Indian Constitution. So another notable thing here is that Article 368 itself, for the amendment of Article 368 itself, no no ratification is needed. No ratification of state is needed to amend Article 368 of Indian Constitution. Just a special majority, just a special majority is sufficient to amend Article 368 of Indian Constitution. That is another important thing which has to be noted here. So now we'll go to the procedure under Australian Constitution. So section 128, it is a very interesting procedure which has been laid down under Australian Constitution. Yeah, the amendment procedure is laid down under section 128 of Australian Constitution. So it says that a bill has to be presented before either of the house, of parliament. The both houses must give an absolute majority for passing of such bill. An absolute majority of both houses is needed. After passage of the bill in both the houses, that is the House of Representatives and the Senate, after passing of the bill with an absolute majority in House of Representatives and the Senate, the bill will directly go to the go for voting of the electorates all over the country. So it is a really complicated process, just like in India how we elect our representatives, how the member of legislative assembly, how he is elected, how the member of parliament is elected. Just like that the amendment of the constitution is carried out there. So a bill is presented before the House of Representatives or House of Senate. After getting an absolute majority there, it will go to the second house, and there also it has to attain the absolute majority. Then after getting the absolute majority of both the houses, it will go down to the people directly for direct vote. After getting a majority there only, the amendment is carried out there. So it is a very complicated and uh, time consuming procedure of amendment of Australian Constitution. So that is why Australian Constitution is said to be a rigid constitution. So friends, it is like the thing which is noted here is that till now, in 1900 the Australian Constitution is got its royal assent in the year 1900. We are now in 2020 now, and now till now only 44 attempts have been made to amend Australian Constitution. Among the 44 attempts, only 8 attempts were succeeded. So only 8 times the Australian Constitution is amended till from 1900 till 2020. At the same time, we have our own Indian Constitution, which was amended lastly in the year 2020, January 25. That was the 104th amendment happened to Indian Constitution. So you can see a huge difference there between the number of amendments which was made to Indian Constitution and Australian Constitution. So from that we can understand that how rigid is the Australian Constitution and how flexible is Indian Constitution. I am not telling that I'm not telling that Indian constitution has to be rigid just like Australian constitution. We cannot adopt such a procedure blindly to our society, because the population of India, it is something which is so vast than which is there in Australia. So everything for the proposed amendment, we direct voting for this proposed amendments and all, it is not that practical in Indian situation. So I am not telling that it has to be rigid as just like Australian constitution, but I am telling that some provisions has to be it has to be given some special care, has to be given some special care in it, because when we go back to our amendments, we can see so many controversial amendments. First thing is the when we talk about the controversial amendment, the first thing which comes into my mind is that the 42nd amendment. 42nd amendment happened in the year 1976, which curtailed so many which curtailed the power of Supreme Court and High Court. So many provisions were introduced to curtail the judicial review power of Supreme Court, then the other powers of High Courts all over the states. Then after that, we can see in 1980 and all, two provisions were invalidated by the Supreme Court, but also so many provisions which was introduced in the year 1976 by 42nd Amendment. Still, it is there in the text of our Constitution. So, 42nd Amendment itself, it is called as a mini Constitution. So there are many controversial amendments. Many others are also there. 39th Amendment which happened in the year 1975. Then recently 99th Amendment which happened in the year 2014, which altered the appointment of the judges to Supreme Court and High Court. When we study why it is obligatory to the president to give his assent to all the constitutional amendments, we can see that in 1967, in Golaknath versus State of Punjab, it has been pointed out by the Supreme Court that the president has the power to assent or not to assent the constitutional amendments. After that, in 1971, by the way of 24th Amendment, uh, there were there were some modification happened in Article 368, Clause 2 of Indian Constitution, which stated that it shall be presented to the President, who shall give his assent to the bill, and thereupon the Constitution shall stand amended in accordance with the terms of the bill. So, from this modification to Article 368, Clause 2 of Indian Constitution, it becomes it becomes obligatory to the President of India to give his assent to such bills, which introduced modifications or amendments to the Indian Constitution. So these all are which amendments which I found something which is so ridiculous, because the Constitution of India, it is not something which can be amended uh, for any political interest. Or in the country like India, we know that we have unity in diversity. We have we have so many languages, we have so many cultures. In that also we have diverse political parties. We have so many political interests. So all ruling parties eh, all ruling parties, they always attempts to carry out their political agenda. The legislators are basically they are politicians only. So what they are doing is, like, I'm not criticizing everyone, but in some occasions they just try to carry out their political agendas by introducing some laws or by amending some provisions in the existing laws. So it is not just like any ordinary law. The Constitution, it is something which is so noble. It is the supreme law of the land. So it has to be protected from such ridiculous amendments or such political dramas. So what I am stating is that the some provisions, that is the article relating to the citizenship, that is Article 5, Then Article 169, which deals with the addition or abolition or creation of legislative councils in the states. So they all are some articles which is of serious character. So such articles shall be amended only by at least by a special majority, or some articles such as 368 itself, article 368 itself, it shall be amended, it must be amended only with the ratification of states. So such constitutional provisions shall be preserved in an efficient manner by giving more rigidity to such provisions, and that is what I state. And this is only my personal opinion. I'm not criticizing anyone here. And thank you for watching me. Thank you for watching this video.